So your house is lit by candlelight at night.
Yeah,
Every night.
we've actually sitting right next to me right here. So this is all beeswax right here. This is like, I don't know, like 5 pounds. We've got a bunch of bricks of them over here.
Uh-huh.
We melt them down and make our own candles. So we've got a big stockpile of those. But and all that beeswax is from Prescott Honey Farms. A little shout out to a local apiary here in Oregon. But
man, that's pretty wild, man. Like how long have you been instituting that protocol?
Past few years. Yeah.
You don't watch you're not watching any TV at night, are you?
Not really. I mean, occasionally if I guess the TV watching has shifted drastically simply because we have a 9-month-old baby.
Yeah.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. We're not too keen on screen time for ourselves, and we're definitely not planning on instituting any screen time for him for the foreseeable future until he's, up and bigger and stuff. Just there's no reason for it. His developing brain, he's got so much going on in the physical world, and he doesn't need to be entertained or babysat by screens and what that does to him. So by virtue of that and how involved we are with his life, we watch a lot less like Netflix or whatever. Mm-hmm. Typically trying not to do screens too much into the evening. We don't have a TV in the house. The biggest screen we have is my 13-inch MacBook. So, we might watch something time to time when he's taking a nap, but
other than that,
definitely a lot less.
Yeah. That's just kind of as a father. How do you, because I'm trying to put this into words, technology obviously has a large role in our society. Mm-hmm. And I'm on your side of the fence when it comes to technology and like young minds. I don't think it's necessarily the best. I think people need to learn how to play. They need to learn how to be in their body and, coordination. All those skills are incredibly important. But do you also have a fear that or a better question rather is, are you going to allow your son to interact with technology because it is here to stay and you don't necessarily want him to be behind? So how do you plan on walking that line?
Oh, totally. For me, it's pretty easy, I guess, in practice, what I've got going there. But I just wanted to add to, you were saying, the dangers of technology and younger generations. Mm-hmm. I think all of us kind of hit a sweet spot. I was having this conversation earlier with somebody else where like the older people are getting blindsided by tech right now because they don't understand the power of it and how like things like Instagram are like controlling that, mm-hmm. sucking their attention. And I've seen this with parents and different people. You'll just see them like so mindlessly zoned in. And then, you can get that with any demographic, but especially older folks. And then the younger people that grew up with this tech. But then you have like myself, I grew up, didn't have a smartphone until like college. I was kind of like, I was a little bit behind on that. There were people that got it before me, but I had like a flip razor all through high school. Didn't need anything else. Got a girlfriend out of state, bought a smartphone, went to college, needed it for college, that sort of thing. But to answer your question, it's kind of, I guess I have a parenting principle that I think I'm going to apply to most things. And this included and also I think it's a misnomer. Maybe there are folks that think that because I'm an ancestral kind of coach lifestyle and all of the above, I would shun modern technology or something like that. And that's pretty ridiculous. I definitely embrace technology and using it as a tool. But I think that we should have more of an appreciation for ancestral wisdom and understanding the environment that forged our genome and our biology, and realize that we are still that primal human living in a very different environment. So like our biology still responds to all the same cues, but we have drastically changed our environment in the past like few minutes of the 24 hours that humans have been on the planet. Like if you think about it like that,
yes,
like it's the past few seconds of that, analog clock face that we have shifted everything. So I think that it's important to realize, that just because we have it doesn't mean it's the best thing ever. And we need to be critical in deciding if something is detrimental. But specifically to your question, I'm absolutely going to teach my kid everything I know about crypto technology, like graphic design. Like I'm pretty savvy in the tech world, where like I made my own website. I do photography, graphic art. I do a little bit of crypto trading. So I dabble and I try and stay informed. And I think that keeping, like, from a child, keeping them privy and aware and capable, so that they can make their own decisions and they could know why they might want to be averse to something, rather than trying to shelter them,
Yeah. I agree with you, because I think you got to use tech as a tool.
Yeah.
But where a lot of people go wrong with it is, and this is just from not personal experience, but just things that I've observed, are, like video games scare the shit out of me. Like if I have kids, I am very anti that. I've lost too many friends to that realm of just playing video games all the time.
John shaking his head. Which way are you agreeing with this?
I'm kind of both. Like I'm with Loren. I think like we hit the sweet spot. Like I, grew up playing in the woods and in the street, playing street hockey, and then also playing, Mario Kart or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, I think there's a lot to, preparing your children for life so that they're not just completely dumbfounded when they see like, a smartphone or something.
Yeah.
But also not like, I didn't mean to mute myself. Sorry. But also like, I think, Rick, you're a little crazy. Like video games aren't that scary. Like they're fine.
And I want to hit.
I think learning how to like play and then also step away. Like my parents wouldn't let me play. They wouldn't let me play video games literally all day unless it was like maybe a Saturday and it was during the summer.
Yeah.
Or something like. Totally. But it was like they had to you learn learn self-control and then
And so it was kind of like a forbidden fruit thing for you. Like it was something that you weren't allowed to do when you wanted to do it. Let's say. But I guess at risk of stepping on people's toes, so I definitely have played some video games growing up, but I guess I take the stance as an adult. Like I'm a grown ass man, and there's so much shit to do, from self betterment to fostering a family and projecting myself into the future, that like I don't have time for video games. I need to level up my own shit, and there's like so many different side quests in real life. That's
kind of where I am. I never have time. Like I very seldom have time to play video games, and I use video games as like a form of like relaxing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm like, I've got enough brain power that I need to do something, want to do something, but like not enough that I can like read a book and like really retain the information or something. So I'll play like a video game that's like I play like a city building game that's like creative, or kind of something like that. I'm not much one for like shooter games or something. I don't have the attention span to do that.
Nice. Yeah. So your kids no video games, Rick?
I'll say this. I wouldn't buy them a console. If they decided that is something they wanted, and then, we could figure out something, some sort of earn, like you're going to earn this. I'm not going to pay for it because I don't believe in it. But if this is what you want for your life, or not for your life, but if this is what's an activity that you want to engage in, we'll figure out a way for you to pay. Yeah, have some ownership over it. You're gonna have to work for me or something. If it comes to like playing sports or doing whatever, like Dad's gotcha. I'm gonna shell out some cash, but I don't think I would pay for a console. It's just it's too scary. I've lost too many friends.
Yeah,
they're dead. They're not dead, but they're gaming all the time. But that's
recently a guy I met here in town. I asked him, he's a good friend now. I asked him, I was like, do you play video games or watch sports? I don't do either of those things. And I think it's pretty rare to find men in this world that don't really, I guess, do one of those two things or identify with doing one of those two things. Like I'll enjoy watching some UFC or like sitting down to actually do an activity of something. But to have that be like something you identify yourself as, or something that takes up a large portion of your adult life, I think is...
I would agree. I am a junkie when it comes to. I don't watch them, but if I'm at a restaurant or something and a game's on, it's like a junkie that's around a big bag of heroin or whatever. I just want to mainline it into my veins. I fucking love sports, but to me it's the NFL, which is my pretty much number one besides UFC, it's like 3 hours and there's multiple games on, and I would just sit there all day and waste time, and I can't do that anymore. I've got too much shit I have to do. I've got this podcast run. I got a full-time job. I've got other projects I'm working. I don't have time for it. I wish I did.
Well, I guess that's a good tie-in to like things that aren't necessarily sports and things, but you recognize your shortcoming when it comes to, or the addictiveness of seeing or watching sports. I was having a conversation with a client earlier today, and they finally had this little epiphany of a certain food that when they eat that it is just like their gateway of like wanting and feeling more munchy into other things. And it like, I guess in the food realm, it gets a little bit sticky because there's actually food chemists that are constructing and engineering food to be hyper palatable and do that and hijack our biology. So that's why one of the things I always try and keep all my clients away from is natural flavors, which seems like, you know, it's one of those tricky things that most people don't even know to try and avoid that. But short of vegetable oil as an ingredient to avoid, it is like probably the hardest thing to avoid. Like most kombuchas that you can buy, natural flavors, like there's chocolate with natural flavoring in it. Like, and it's a huge problem. Like, not even talking about the fact that like natural flavoring has its own issues. The fact that our food doesn't taste good enough, or that like what are the, I don't know if systemic's the right word here, but like what are the bigger implications of why we need to put natural flavoring in all of our stuff? Or do we need to, or do we not need to, and we're doing it simply because we can make things addictive and we can put in byproducts and we can put in other things that cause like long-term issues for people. So that's kind of a big ball of wax that I wasn't planning on opening up, but I
preach, Loren.
I
think you're right.
I'm gonna mention something, and if you say it's bad, I'm gonna feel vindicated, but also a little pissed off. I have a long-held conspiracy theory that I'm addicted to fucking sparkling water in the cans,
so
LaCroix.
we got a whole rabbit hole to go down.
They're not good. They cause cancer. I know it. They have to.
Well, I mean, you're drinking plastic for starting. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues going on here, but microplastics in any aluminum can is a completely real thing. Outside of that, it's hard to find any water that doesn't have plastic in it, but you can look up measurable amounts of plastic in a lot of these companies, along with the natural flavoring issue. So, yeah, there's a bunch of issues there. And so the addictiveness is probably coming from the hyperpalatability of the natural flavoring themselves. But then also, like every time I go, like, and I see somebody drinking out of a can, I'm just like, you're drinking plastic. Like, we got plastic. Our clothes are made of plastic. Our food has plastic in it. Our food is wrapped in plastic. Our beverages have plastic in there. You know, like it's really hard to get away from. And so rather than getting really kind of depressed about the whole situation.
I'm so fucking upset right now. I knew it, dude.
I'm loving this, by the way. I love like I do this to Rick all the time with politics and with like environmental science and stuff like this, that it's like, hey, here's this horrible feedback cycle no one knew about. We're dying.
Yeah,
and it's fun to watch from the outside.
Yeah, let me put a little positive spin on this though, because it's easy to get down the rabbit hole of how everything's broken and sucks and killing us. Well, on that note, we're all going to die anyway. So,
100%.
But to spin it back, you know, there are things that we have control over. There are things that we don't have control over. And doing everything perfectly all the time is not possible. And so getting overwhelmed by thinking that, you know, everything sucks doesn't help us. But taking tangible, consistent, small, simple steps and kind of implementing those into our lives, that makes such a big difference down the road. And it's something that is so simple when you hear it. It's like, yeah, that's obvious. But I think the real crux there is that, so yeah, it's simple. If you take a positive step and you implement it into your life and you do it daily, that will amount to big things. But on the inverse, if you don't do that, the absence of that is going to be filled with other decisions, because you can't do nothing. Doing nothing is an action. And that accumulates to take you in another direction. So we have people making conscious good decisions to move one way, or conscious or subconscious or conscious decisions to move in a bad direction. And so one of the topics that I brought up recently with some people I was talking with was this idea that to stay in the same place, it requires movement, because time doesn't stand still. In the same way that if you're treading water and you want to stay above water, you have to move. Maybe not a lot, but you have to move a little bit to keep your head above water. So this idea, like with physical practice in particular, with if you want to maintain your tissue capacities, if you want to maintain your health, if you want to maintain your relationships, whatever it is, you need to put in a little bit of effort, at least, if not more effort, to grow and progress in a positive direction. So, don't really know how we got there from the bubbly water.
This is good. I mean, you needed to say that because like I'm still processing the bubbly water thing, because like that, dude, that's a bit.
So,
I don't think you
Loren,
understand.
what's your stance on mineral water?
What's that on mineral water?
What's your stance on mineral water?
So I guess the way to deconstruct this from the top to the bottom is there is the best water, and then there is the worst water, and then there is what you can get your hands on and what you can do, and also not being paralyzed by the information, but being empowered by it. So like I grew up drinking tap water, and that has pros and cons depending on where you're from. It can be much worse, it can be much better. But that was my past. Now I've been educated in different ways. I don't know everything, but I know something, and I can make better decisions when I have the power to. But then if I'm stuck somewhere and I have to drink tap water or some swamp water, like, I can do that. And I can, So I think that education should empower us. It shouldn't paralyze us, and it shouldn't make us feel entitled or like better than anybody else. So back to answer your question about like the best water versus the worst or mineral water. I think the best water, in my opinion, would be structured spring water from the earth, if it's uncontaminated, where your people came from. So if you transgenerationally,
just a truckload of water from Lithuania.
so transgenerationally, if you grew up on this one piece of land and this was your migratory area for your people, and there was water coming from the earth that was structured because it's ancient, and it's just coming out of a spring, that would be the best, because your microbiome is from there, your bacterial cloud, everything. You're sharing molecular energy with that land and with that water. That would be the best. Obviously, everyone's displaced now. We've polluted just about everything we can pollute.
I'm crazy with water. I have one of those like 2-stage carbon fluoride filter water filters
in a Berkey or something else different.
Yeah, it's a great value Berkey, but it's literally the same thing. And I drink it like either I have all glass. I either have like glass pint glasses, or I use like a hydro flask. Yeah.
Well, and people can kind of make fun of being a little bit hyper aware of these things, but water and air are the two things. I mean, you can get into like state of mind and thoughts and narratives, and that stuff's pretty important too. But the air we breathe and the water that we drink it takes up a huge amount of, like our ability to be healthy. Because every cell in our body is filled up and made with the water that we drink. And the air we breathe, like if somebody suffocates you for a couple minutes, you're probably going to die. Like, so we need the air, but then outside of like needing air, we need quality air, and that air goes into our bodies, all through our blood.
Yeah.
All through our
Part
cells.
of the reason I moved out to Oregon too, was air quality. I used to live in Indiana in the Midwest, and like, you could look at the air quality report every day, and the lowest it would be like 70 with fine particulate matter, because there was so much industry there.
Yeah. And I feel like, I don't know, some people became more aware after the fires a couple of years ago here, but I really like the app IQ Air. I think that's what it is. And it has like, you can scrub on a map and look at the air quality in different places, and you can look at the different particles, like the PM 2.5s. Different pollutants in the air. And so we've got some pretty nice air filters in our house, and we're pretty strict about that too. I won't go outside and exercise if it's over a certain amount. But yeah.
Really? I didn't The only time the air has been an issue is definitely when the fires happen. And honestly, like last week, I think there was a fire in Camas and the wind blew down, and that kind of fucked me up, dude. I got sick. It was awful. As far as water, I'm a tap guy. I drink tap water with ice in it. Haven't been too, and a lot of bubblies, which I'm still pretty upset about that. But it's something that I knew wasn't good for me. Nothing could taste that good and have nothing in it. It did not make sense. I'm glad that you've confirmed my suspicions all along, and I also do want you to send me that information. Wherever you fucking got that, you need to email that to me. I need to read up on it.
Dig through stuff. I guess to that point, so this with diet culture and nutritional eating, I don't know, the whole science and innovations of it. So you just said drinking something that tasted that good couldn't have nothing in it. Why would you want to drink something that has nothing in it?
Well, it's just like I'm saying, I got really into bubblies because I'm doing a 355 challenge, right? So I get 10 Mulligan days a year to like drink, to have a cocktail or to get drunk or whatever, however I want to spend them. Yeah. So in order to kind of mitigate my drinking, I would buy, like if I was going to go to a party or a gathering or whatever, I would just get like a bubbly water, something like a LaCroix or a bubbly. And I'd bring a case of that and I just drink it as socially. And then that kind of led into me going to Costco, Kirkland, and buying the massive flats of it and living the dream.
Yeah. So I guess a couple things there. Like one, if the binary question was you drinking in excess or having a bubbly water, the option having a bubbly water is probably the better option, right?
Right on.
Yeah. Good. So life is all full of these choices where it's not like we're not necessarily always going for perfect. We're going for the better.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at the fallout. The fallout is you're potentially addicted and spending more money than you should on them, and you got them all up in your house, and
they're
maybe
everywhere. They're everywhere, dude. I got like cases in the garage right now on deck. I'm not running out. Are you kidding me? This isn't a game. No, just